The entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone, but for those of us who embrace it, it is a tremendously invigorating path to wealth and impact. My guest today is Bryce Wuori, and he is the co-founder and CEO at Pavewise. He's an expert in asphalt paving, and Pavewise is a technology company that maximizes productivity and improves project quality for paving contractors. We touch on that just a little bit during the interview, and the most important part of this interview today and why you should listen is because we talk about that entrepreneurial journey. The roots of it for Bryce were in his grandfather and his father, who were entrepreneurs, and he learned so much from them, and we go into detail about what he learned from them in the interview. He launched his own first business when he was 12 or 13. We talk about that. We talk about the stresses and the joys of entrepreneurship, how he built a construction company with his family, how he went through the difficult decision of selling that company, and how he launched into the technology company Pavewise. This is well worth listening to because we dive into mental health. We dive into what makes a construction company successful. We dive into how to sell your construction company when it's time to exit and the process that he went through. We even talk about getting venture backing for his construction startup, the software startup, and everything that went into that. So this is a comprehensive interview that you're going to find very, very helpful. Bryce is very open about some of his challenges and struggles, so I appreciate him for that. And now let's dive right into my interview with Bryce.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership.
Bryce, welcome to Construction Genius.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me.
Hey, how did you get into construction?
I was born into it, third generation, and, just seeing my father, my grandpa running companies, and I like building and working on equipment and building things, and so I'm just born right into it.
So take me back to when you were a small child. Not every dad runs a company, right? Did you know that, or was it just something that it wasn't like a big deal to you? How did you view that?
I mean, no, I knew hard work, and I watched my dad work from early in the morning to late at night, and I just thought that was what everybody did, right? And that's kind of what I learned at a young age was, hard work pays off, and waking up early and getting to work and really putting in a good effort pays off. And that's just what I thought everybody did.
Other than the hard work, as you were observing your dad and as you began to mature and think about it, what were some of the things, and your grandfather too, what were some of the things that they focused on as entrepreneurs as they were running their businesses?
One thing I always really noticed with both my father and my grandpa they were very good communicators. They were good businessmen that were, they shook a hand and they helped neighbors, individuals out, and they were just really good communicators and businessmen. And I noticed that right away too.
What kind of construction companies did they have?
There was excavation. We did general construction. So everything from, water lines to septic tanks to earth moving, all that general contracting.
Yeah, so you're up there in North Dakota. Would you say that there's more jack of all trades up in North Dakota just to make stuff work, or are there more specialty contractors versus GCs? How does the layout of the land go there?
Yeah, there's definitely more jack of all trades. I mean, that's the other thing that I learned growing up was we didn't always have a mechanic on site. So you learn to wrench, you learn to survey, you learn to design, you learn pretty much how to do anything. And that I think was valuable in the process of learning as well, to really adapt to the environment.
Was it your father's expectation that you would come into the business with him? How did that kind of dynamic play out?
No, it never really was. Anybody who's in construction realizes it's a demanding industry. Being an entrepreneur is demanding. So they always want better for you. Go to college, get your degree, get an office job. And I did that. I did that. I got an engineering degree. I sat and designed concrete bridges for, right out of college. And this isn't what I like to do. I like to be in the field. I like to actually build things, run equipment. And that's kind of how it transitioned. So it was never his intent. He actually tried to push me away from construction.
Now, why did he do that though? Because you said something about like a better life or something. He wanted something better for me. Why would he consider that better?
Well, I think it's the long hours. You give up when you're an entrepreneur and especially in construction, you give up a lot of time with family. You give up a lot of time from hobbies and things like that. And I think that was more towards what he was pushing me towards was, look, this is going to be a demanding lifestyle. It's been great for me, but there is things that I possibly missed out on and I don't want you to do the same. That's kind of what I think the initial intent was.
It's interesting, right? Because in our culture, we have this narrative where, parents should spend X amount of time with their kids and all that kind of stuff and X amount of time with their families. But like you say, when we're entrepreneurs, that doesn't happen. And yet when I talk to many children of entrepreneurs, particularly in construction, it's not like they're bitter about that. It's more like they look to their parents as an example of hard work and perseverance. And that's what's had a tremendous impact on their lives. How do you view that?
Absolutely. I mean, that I view it the same way as like learning to work hard, learning to be a good business person. I learned that all from my father and from my grandpa. And that's why I think it was engraved in me at an early age. I don't think I was ever going to leave it just because I really did enjoy it. I still do enjoy it. I'm an entrepreneur still today in construction. I no longer own a construction company. We've sold those, but now, still running an entrepreneur startup, a technology company. And it's just something, when you have entrepreneur blood in you, it doesn't go away.
So what makes a good business person?
I truly believe to be a really good business person, you have to surround yourself with people that you can learn from. You have to be adaptable. I mean, things change on the fly. Like it's hard to be an entrepreneur and depend on structure because things change so fast. You have to adapt. You have to be a listener. You have to listen. And that the next biggest thing is communication. Some of the best entrepreneurs I know can just communicate so well with their customers that they might not know the answer, but they can understand and communicate how to solve a problem just because of that skill they have.
What do you mean specifically by being adaptable?
Well, adaptable, things happen, right? I mean, my phone could ring and my whole schedule and day is shot. This just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
With our systems being set up in the hurricane down in Florida, we had systems, huge amounts of damages to construction sites. We were recording 70-mile-per-hour winds, all these rains. I had to cancel half my day to help contractors gather this data through the system, show the breakdowns of the impacts and things like that. I had to adapt. I had to change. My day was not planned for that. And I had to pretty much do a 360 and just adapt.
How do you manage yourself when you have a day like you just described, where, you have something all planned out and then all of a sudden it goes in a completely different direction? How do you manage your inner game there?
I never used to manage that very well. It's a learning process because you get very frustrated when you have a plan in your head when you wake up in that morning and I'm going to accomplish A, B, C, and something like that happens and you don't get anything on your list accomplished and you have to, reschedule all these meetings and it just feels like you got nothing done that day. As I've gotten older and that happens more and more, I realize there's things that we can't control, and getting wound up and binded in things we can't control, it's not worth the energy. So I've kind of got a little bit more laid back in that, it happens and I can't control it. I'm going to just put my feet in the ground and keep moving forward.
That's interesting. So does that mean some people, they take a deep breath. Some people, they just, they just have a little something they tell themselves in their heads. What do you do there when you're going so again, you got that call yesterday and all of a sudden I was going to do A, B, and C and now it's X, Y, and Z. And, maybe I'm pissed because of that.
Yeah. Honestly, this might sound crazy, but like I laugh and I smile.
There you go.
I'm not kidding. That's what I do is I almost turn it into like a humor because it's like, and that actually kind of converts it over to the serious. It's serious still, but it's like it takes away the seriousness of like what I can't control. And I take meditation. I've taken on mental health is super important in our industry. I take breaks. I take, just best practices for that, even to just like, all right, I'm getting a little bit too wound up and stuff here. I'm just going to take a 15-minute reset.
That's interesting because I know there's a lot of talk in construction over about mental health. And, obviously there are deep challenges and issues with suicide in construction. People highlight that all the time. You don't necessarily hear that in a lot of other industries. You obviously perhaps with law enforcement or something like that. And why do you think construction is so prone to have issues? People have issues with their mental health and with their stress in construction specifically.
I think there's multiple reasons. I personally have been through some of them. It is a demanding industry that you think about it. Like right now, I'm working on a project where, you wake up at 5 a.m., it's dark, and you stop working at 8 p.m. and it's dark. So you go home in the dark, you wake up in the dark, you're a lot of times away from your support system, which your family, if you're traveling, the life cycle of a construction worker too, you're thinking about like they're working long hours. There's a lot of caffeine intake. There's maybe alcohol at the end of the day. It's not a healthy system all the time. I got kind of entrapped in that as well, where it was 2 big cups of coffee, a Red Bull. Okay, it's 5 o'clock at night. I still got 2-3 more hours. I'm going to have another cup of coffee. And then I'm so strung, I'm going to drink a 6-pack of beer to get to bed.
Yeah, right.
But I got to be up at 4. So I think there's this vicious cycle out in the industry. And the other thing that I've noticed is people in construction are rough and tough. There are a lot of blue collar. They don't want to talk about if they're having struggles or feelings. That makes them look weak.
Yep.
So
that's interesting. Okay, so how did you get out of that cycle? Because, a lot of people, I know people listening will relate to what you said, caffeine in the morning all the way through the afternoon and then a 6-pack so I can go to sleep. That's like a vicious cycle that you're describing right there. Plus getting up early, you're not getting enough sleep. And so you're just shot and it goes on and on. How did you get out of that? How did you manage your way out of that?
I didn't manage my way out of it all. It was forced upon me. I actually, I was running 3 businesses and you can't keep up on that kind of pace forever. And actually what happened to me was I had a breakdown where my body shut down and said, listen, you can't do this anymore. And eventually what that forced me to do was like, I need a lifestyle change, because if I continue this, I don't know if I can first. But so I was actually forced. My body shut me down and said, look, you can't keep up on this high revved amplitude life and you got to find a little bit better balance. Luckily, I had a good support system that helped me get through that. It was very difficult. I'm a very busy individual and I literally got pushed to a position in my life where I had to actually slow down and learn how to handle situations better and things like that. So it was all forced, really. I mean, it was a learning experience for me.
It's interesting because as people are listening to this, I think there's a note that I want to make is that some of us are able to make changes when there's a little voice in our head. Some of us are able to make changes when somebody talks to us. And then for some of us, it does take, like you said, some sort of radical thing to happen. Some sort of breakdown or something like that. I appreciate you being open with that. I just want to say to the audience, if what Bryce is saying is resonating with you in terms of how you're managing yourself. And maybe right now you're at the little voice in your head stage. And one thing that you can do to take action on that little voice is actually to go talk to someone about it, because that'll help you to articulate it. It'll get it out of your reptilian brain into your thinking brain, so that you can kind of process it out a little bit. And just having a conversation with someone can really help you to begin to make changes before you get to the point of something tremendously serious, an outside event perhaps affecting you in such a way that it's much more devastating. So I just want to make that note there. And Bryce, I really appreciate you sharing that.
And I'm going to completely second that. That's one of the best things that I never used to do was share emotions or talk about what was bugging me. I always kept it inside. And the moment I learned how to do that and involve people in that and get it into your thinking brain and out verbally, it's therapeutic. It's so healthy. And that's really what I had to learn to do was communicate those feelings and learn how to manage them correctly. And that's why I was never taught that. That's the one thing I was never taught in construction was how to do that. So
yeah, no, it's really great. And yet, so we're talking about this, but yet we still have businesses to run. Okay. So On the one hand, we don't want to be going off the rails, obviously, but on the other hand, running a business is tremendously difficult. How do you manage, let me ask you this, how do you manage your weekends or the time that you do have off so that when you are working, you have the most amount of focus and energy possible?
Yeah. So I have 4 kids, and my wife is actually the COO of our company. So it's a very family orientated business already. I get to bring my 12-year-old son with me he's been to about 15 states this year working with me. But like how I handle like the weekends, you got to take time to reset. You have to do things that you enjoy. Like one of mine is bow hunting out in the Badlands, hiking, just being in nature. I love nature, just reading. So that's one thing I also never used to make time for, was like just finding things that I want to do and just shut my phone off. I never used to be able to shut my phone off. So like, for example, this weekend, I'm going to take one of my youngest daughters on a father-daughter date. She hit a goal in one of her gymnastics classes. And I said, if you hit this goal, we'll go on a date together. We're going to go spend some time and do that. Really, I go on these spurts of really hard concentration work. And then I take a little bit of time off and do the same thing. It's almost, it's refreshing. You have to take those little bit of breaks, because I've noticed before, if you just continue through them and push through, your efficiency just drops. So that's kind of how I approach it. And I use the weekends and stuff like that to really be my reset.
That's great. What's it like working with your wife in the business?
It's amazing. A lot of people think, how do you do that? But we are complete opposites as far as business. She's very structured, very business savvy on operations, on finances. I'm a dreamer. I think of the good ideas. I can communicate and connect with a lot of the customers on a level of that they're on, because I'm in construction. So it's just always worked really well. We've ran 4 businesses together and, exited all of them because she runs the books. I run the dreams, and it works.
Was she involved in business before you guys met, or did that just happen? What's her background?
Absolutely. Yep. Every business we've ever had, she's been involved in.
But was she entrepreneurial before you guys met? Yeah.
No. She was a nurse. She has a nursing degree. So she's very good. She's very compassionate too. She's very good with employees. She's just an all around amazing co-founder to have, because she's everything that I'm not.
Yeah.
And it works really well. So she's adapted. She's adapted to be an entrepreneur, and she's adapted very well, and is just absolutely amazing.
So going back to working with your dad, did you work with your grandfather as well?
I did. Yep.
That's neat. When did you start your first business? How old were you?
Oh, my first business. I suppose I was about 12 or 13. I started tarring roofs for a summer money while working constructions. On the weekends, I'd actually put tar on roofs of local businesses that needed it done and stuff. But that was the first ever business I started myself.
So, you go to a business owner as a 12 or 13-year-old. I'm just thinking about one of my kids. He's just turned 14. I couldn't imagine being a business owner and some kid walking up to me saying, "Hey, can I tar your roof?" What was that like?
Luckily, I had a father that knew a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of business owners that needed the work done. So it was kind of like, hey, you should probably start a business to do this, because I got about 5 people that would pay you pretty good to go do this. And you could make about $200 a week by tarring these roofs. And so like, I was guided, but eventually I did start another business after that was like a car detailing. So I was a busy high school kid. I did a lot of sports. I was in a lot of events, but on the weekends I had a list of clients that every month they'd want me to clean their cars. My dad, one of his businesses was owning a couple car washes. So I got the keys to the car wash. I get to wash the cars for free, make a little profit. And it was a little side business I had. And that actually grew to a point where I couldn't take on any more customers. But that was all just kind of the same kind of concept of just starting a business and making it happen. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What was the first construction company you started?
The first construction company we started was, it was called 3WI. It was my dad, brother, and I actually ran this, and we did everything from dirt work, erosion control. We had shakers for sifting and trucks, and I mean, we did all kinds of different work, excavation, bulldozers, things like that. And it was great. We had my dad came in as a partner. My brother ran the operations. I did a lot of the bidding and customer acquisitions and things like that. And it was just a really nice flow of everybody kind of had their position, and it worked. We took that company from like 3-4 employees to all the way up to, I think, almost like 15 by the time we sold it and stuff. And that was only in a matter of about like 7 or 8 years.
That's great. Why did you sell it?
Honestly, it was the decision. My dad was at retiring age. My brother didn't want to run the company by himself, and I wanted to pursue Pavewise. I knew that we had a technology, and we ran a lot of these technologies at our construction companies, that we had something that could affect the whole industry and help them. It was either I stay in construction or we take the jump and go see if we can make this happen. And that's eventually what we did. We sold all of our companies just to pursue Pavewise.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. As you're working in construction, tell us just a little bit, give us a quick blurb on exactly what Pavewise does, and then we'll go back to how you began to develop the thought behind moving into software as opposed to moving into continuing on with construction.
Yeah, Pavewise is a progressive web app. It's designed to help paving contractors be more efficient by putting in compliance, highly accurate weather data to specifications, to best practices, tracking their quality. Contractors are paid, asphalt paving contractors are paid by quality production. And we help them hit those KPIs with best practices and just giving them the data to show them, and as close as we can, real-time data, like this is how you're performing and this is what you could change to be more successful. We also have some hardware that gets put out on site, certified weather stations collecting up to like 5 different things like wind speed. You're looking at ambient temperatures, moisture, humidity, and all those things play into effect of how you're going to operate and work that day. So we've built an automated system to pretty much tell them, this is your conditions today, this is your risk, this is what we can do to combat it on this specific environment and day.
Hey, this is Eric, and quick break to talk about my book, Construction Genius. Something really cool happened. A company from Nigeria just contacted me. They purchased 10 of these books, and so because they purchased 10 of my books, we're going to do a Zoom call where we do some additional training, help the leadership team there in Nigeria. So, I'm here in California, and I'm just totally kind of blown away, right, that a company in Nigeria buys my book, and you're like, duh, Eric, it's called the internet. And, go to Amazon and buy the book. I know, but it's kind of groovy, right? Someone in Nigeria buys a book from me. Here I am sitting in Sacramento, California. All this to say, you should go out and buy this book because it is awesome. It is a great book. It is just straightforward, effective, simple, practical, no BS, leadership strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. People in your organization will love it. And let me just say this. One of my clients, what they did is about a year ago, they purchased this book for their leaders. But then what they did is they also purchased it for their support people. And the reason why is they wanted to give people in AP and people on the accounting side of the business, people in compliance and HR, a real appreciation for what it means to be in construction leadership. And so they read the book as well and got a tremendous amount out of that. So whether it is the leaders in your company or perhaps other people in your company who aren't directly involved in building projects every day, but support those who are building the projects, go and buy the book for them. And when you get 10 or more books, shoot me an email and I'll come in and I'll do that 1-hour Q&A session with you, and I'll do some bonus training. And I would normally charge $3,500 for an hour of my time, and you'll get it for less than $200 if you buy 10 of the books at $19.99 per book on Amazon. That's $19.99 US. So if you're in Nigeria, I'm not quite sure how much you're paying. All right. So this is awesome, right? Let's get back to the interview with Bryce. So now you were telling me before we started recording that you're from North Dakota, right?
Yes. Yep.
So you're familiar with extreme weather conditions?
Yes, we are.
Yep. So tell me a little bit about how you began to develop this idea for Pavewise as you were running a construction company.
But yeah, I was really trying to solve a pain. We have a very short season up here. 6 months, maybe 7, like things are starting to shut down right now in October. And so we have to be as efficient as possible. And we have a lot of compliance. Like right now, it's getting down into the 40 degrees already at night. And there's certain times you can only do your work, like 35 degrees and rising, you can only place asphalt and certain things like that. So I was constantly trying to figure out what site is going to be impacted by what and what do we got to do. And it was a lot of work to just like try to figure that out from a standpoint of pen and paper and looking at certain weather apps and trying to figure, like there was a lot of work that went into that, especially when you had like 6, 7, 8 different sites in different locations. And I created the system to automate that. Like, all right, I'm going to put a GPS location here in the station. It's going to tell me exactly what the conditions are. I'm going to build a proactive using modeling. I'm going to build a way for it to tell me what to expect in the next 7 days so that I can plan accordingly for it, move my crews around. So, I was just trying to make myself more efficient. And then the compliance part of it. So the EPA requires you to track your rainfall and weather on any federally funded project that you disturb more than an acre of land. Well, almost every project is more than an acre of land. So
Right.
you legally have to comply and track and document when you get a quarter, half-inch of rain. Make sure you're not polluting, it's not discharging, and you're not, so like that was a whole nother side of it that like, okay, I got 20 sites that I have to do this on, and which ones got rain, which ones didn't. I'd spend a whole day driving around from site to site to site and be like looking at rain gauges, like Home Depot rain gauges.
Right.
And that took a lot of time and effort. And I was like, there's got to be a way to automate this. Well, that's what Ground Truth is inside Pavewise, is the automation of that weather tracking on site. And it text notifies you, tells you when you've got a quarter inch of rain, when wind speeds are at these for safety compliance, when temperatures, all this. It's like a on-site meteorologist, really.
That's interesting. So as you were trying to solve this problem yourself, at what point did you think this is a business? Was it like right away, or is it something that you just came to over time?
Yeah, it definitely came over time. People recognized what I was doing and they're like, well, that's really neat because we struggle with that too. Can we try it? And pretty soon, other companies were trying it and they're like, oh, this works. Like, can we buy it? And I'm like, what do you mean buy it? No, this is just like, what we do. So pretty soon, like after 27 projects and about 5 contractors that had approached me and they're like, can we set this system up as well? I was like, you know what, this might be a business. So I started researching. I actually went to a lot of like Con Expo down in Las Vegas. And is there anybody doing this really? And we couldn't find anybody. And that was kind of the turning point of like, all right, listen, I think we found a little niche here that could help a lot of people.
And is that niche the hyper-local weather data?
It's the combination of that, but also, anybody could put up a weather station, and collect data. Our software, it comes directly into it. But what we do that's really unique and specific is you can put your contracts in there and we can actually tie in now, like what your compliance is.
So you're marrying the data together and giving actionable information that you can then, okay.
Yep. So we marry that data together and then we automate it. So like if your contract tells you that you can't do this in this condition, we'll text notify you when that condition is present or looks to be present so that you know that you're going to have to adapt or change. So yeah, that's kind of the recipe of it, and then the engines, the best practices. So like having the experience in the industry, I know what often needs to happen to change in the environment to combat it. Like in a paving situation, like high winds are going to cool the mat quicker. Well, you know what you do in that situation? You tighten up your roller patterns. You keep everybody closer together because it's cooling faster. So we've built recommendations in there as well. And you can put custom recommendations in there for your crews to adapt.
That's interesting. So it's not just giving them the information, but it's also kind of almost coaching them about what they should or could do in this situation.
Yep. It's coaching them, and you can customize it to coach however you want for whatever operations, wind speeds for cranes, for safety, whatever it is.
That's interesting. So take us inside the discussion with your brother, your dad. You mentioned that, your brother didn't want to run the company by himself. Your dad was close to retirement age. What was that discussion like when you guys were going through the process of saying, hey, you know what, we're going to sell the businesses and we're going to go all in on this, on Pavewise here?
That discussion, it wasn't easy. We all kind of knew it was coming because I'd already been like a couple of years prior, I was drug into, this system being tested on other construction projects. And they kind of seen, it wasn't just like, we're doing this now. It kind of naturally happened as we seen more and more progress happening with Pavewise and what we were doing. It's like, all right, listen, we understand and see what's going on here. And we want to support you and Pavewise in this progress. So it was really good because it kind of naturally just happened. It wasn't an abrupt stop. It happened, everything happens for a reason. We actually at the same time had a larger contractor come to us and be like, we want to buy your business. Well, that's great timing because we're actually thinking about selling. So it
why do they want to buy your business?
To grow. They didn't have operations in this specific area. So they did similar work. They were just a lot larger and they wanted to expand their operations into this marketplace up here and stuff. So it worked out.
So as they contacted you, how long was it between them contacting you and you selling the business to them?
It was about a year.
About a year. So just take us into that process because, people get contacted all the time. How did you conduct yourself during that negotiation? What was your outlook? What was sort of the framework you set around in terms of, we want to sell the business in this range right here. If it's below this amount, we're going to walk away. How did you guys frame all of that?
Yeah, it's, of course, you look at your physical assets and you look at a lot of your balance sheets and stuff like that. But really what we had that was unique with our business is we captured a market and had such a good customer base that we didn't even have to look for work. People would just call us. We had such a good relationship with some of the biggest contractors in the area that they just call us when something needed to be done. So we had a lot of like this, we call it blue sky opportunity, right? Because we developed those relationships and a lot of times we stopped trying to find customers in this company because we had to just support the people that, called us and wanted this work done, just do it and send us a bill.
Yeah, right.
So we knew there was a lot of opportunity to expand with a bigger company, and this company knew that as well. So we kind of had to figure out like, what is this blue sky worth right here, this customer list, right?
How did you go about that? Figuring it out?
It was negotiation.
Yeah.
They very well too, after looking at our contracts and stuff like that there was good markup on a lot of the stuff, and they knew the size and the opportunity with these specific customers and stuff. So, I mean, in reality, the customer list, the blue sky, was worth just as much as the company, what we built with it, the customer list and stuff. So, yeah.
So, I mean, the next question that popped into my head is like, your customers, hey, I do business with Bryce. Bryce takes care of me, right? And now Bryce is no longer there. It's this other company. How did the value get retained in the business when the business, a lot of business is based on personal relationship?
So that was a part of the contract. My brother actually stayed with the company for, I think it was a contracted period of another year or two to help the transition. And I did as well. I did a lot of training. For a year, I helped that team connect with the right people, the customers, learn the bidding process. And we all just did a nice transition to where it was no longer Bryce, it was the new owners that they were naturally calling and having, continued success with. We showed them how we operated this business so that they could continue operating that way.
That's great. Okay, so you sell the business, you're going through the transition. At the same time, are you working on Pavewise, or how did that go?
Yeah. So at the same time, we just decided to, turn Pavewise into a company, and we're a venture-backed company as well, which if somebody would have told me like 5-6 years ago, like, you're not going to own a construction company anymore, you're going to own a venture-backed software company, I would have laughed at them, right? And people were telling me like, you should look at venture as a way to grow this company really fast and efficiently. And I'm like, what's venture? What's venture? It's capital. Like I've always used a bank. Is it like a bank? Do I go take a loan out? And they're like, no, these are people that invest in your idea and company. And I'm like, okay, I guess show me some people. And pretty soon, like we had an oversubscribed round with investors from 5 different states, from California, from New York, Chicago, that are like, we love it and we want to be a part of this. And here we are today with that support and growing tremendously. And it would have never happened without those individuals as well.
So that's interesting, right? So what do you... Obviously, ventures get, they're giving you money. In return, they want obviously a piece of the business, a piece of the upside. What are some of the pros and cons of working with venture capitalists?
Yeah, I definitely had some what we call dilution anxiety because as an entrepreneur, I always owned, a large percent or all of the company. So now it's like, I'm giving you a piece of this right here and you're going to do what?
Yeah, right.
So what I did in that process is like really found the companies I could connect with, right? That were in construction, that understood the value of what we were doing, not just trying to turn a dollar. So we were very diligent on like, these are the people. And luckily we found a lead investor from Chicago that we had heard great things about. They understood. They invest a lot in the Midwest. That's kind of their logo, M25, invest in the Midwest. And it's been great. We don't know what, I'm going to be completely honest. I've never ran a tech company. Right. I don't know SaaS, and like, so they guide us through, like, you're the expert in the industry. You understand the industry. We're going to help you and connect you with the people to make this a true software business. Yeah. So it's like a marriage kind of, but it's beneficial on both ways. So the other part of it is you don't always have the final say. So like as a business owner, they are like a partner. So they give you good ideas. They also can conflict with ideas at times. And so, I mean, it's a partnership.
That's interesting. I love that phrase, dilution anxiety.
Yeah.
So then as you're getting into this, how do you yourself manage? I know one of the things that a lot of people struggle with when they either come out of the field into the office, right? And they don't feel like they're working anymore, right? Because, they're in the field every day, they're seeing, production happen, they're seeing work put in place, and they come into the office and all they're doing is sit in front of a computer screen. How do you manage yourself in terms of that when you're no longer building a construction company, you're building a software company? What are the differences there?
Yeah, that I still honestly struggle with that. I take every opportunity I get to get out in the field with the customer.
Yep.
And that's not a horrible thing, because that's where you build relationships. I can go out and work with a customer, fly out and work with them for a day and build a relationship that take a year to do through virtual.
Yep.
So, and I think that's one of the reasons that like we really have been successful is we're really organic. We really want to connect with our customers and help them. We truly want to help them. We just don't want to sell them something, and so that's been difficult. I'm not going to lie. I've had to find, it's nice because I have more time to do things that I want, because, I'm more like on not office hours, but like I'm not out on a job site at 4:30, 5 in the morning anymore. I'm maybe in my office by 6 and out by, 5, 6 o'clock. And so it's more of a work-life balance, really. So that part of it has been great, but I do struggle a lot. I was actually just out on a project yesterday and I jumped on an asphalt roller and ran it for an hour because I missed it so bad. I kicked the operator off and said, "Go take a break. I want to run this."
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So now thinking about Pavewise, you mentioned it's both hardware and software. Is that something where that kind of sets you guys apart in terms of not just being a software piece?
Yeah, I mean, so in order to make the precise decisions and to be really accurate out there, the hardware has to be implemented.
Right.
You think of like AccuWeather and, as a traditional, like it'll give you, I don't know, 85, 90% accuracy, maybe.
Right.
Well, you have to have higher levels of accuracy to really make these decisions. And for compliance, you have to. You have to have it. So like the hardware kind of was never really planned. It kind of fell into place that like, look, I already have a piece of hardware out on these sites. It's a rain gauge that I got to drive out and see how much it rained, right?
Right.
Well, I'm just going to replace it with a technology that does it automatically. But construction loves hardware.
Yes.
You think construction is like probably one of the biggest industries with hardware, from equipment to technology. So it's easily adaptable by these people. They just expect hardware.
Yeah. So tell us just in a little more detail about Pavewise Pro, and then how folks can get in touch with you, Bryce. And really, who's your target market? Who's your ideal client?
Our ideal client is anybody working in construction. If they're impacted by environmental, long-term, high-risk projects, anything where like the hurricane came through Florida, right? That's going to affect those projects where you need to prove that data if you have safety risks. So, if you're working outside and in construction, Ground Truth, which is a part of Pavewise, can work for you. If you're a paving contractor looking for an efficiency on quality, Pavewise Pro is kind of that tool for that helps with that whole process of communication, of compliance, of efficiency, making more money, all that. So that's kind of the two pieces of the product, and they can connect with us. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of posts on there, projects and just the real world of construction. We also have pavewisepro.com where you can go check out our product, our website, our team. We have a great team, and I'm just happy to connect with anybody who wants to talk weather, construction, compliance, any of that. I love it all.
That's great. One thing that's really cool is that your background in construction, I'm sure, gives you tremendous credibility when you're in front of your customers, because you're not just some dude from Silicon Valley who's like, construction, $1 trillion industry. Let's see if we can make some money.
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually one of the 5 most recognized experts in asphalt right now in the United States. So I'm an asphalt scientist by trade, or I went to school, got that. But like I go out and do a lot of technology, forensics and designs, and on high profile projects, 27 international airports I've paved at, some Formula One racetracks. So like I really dig into the science of a lot of this. And so, yeah, there's not a lot of us around. So that does help with like, oh, this guy actually does kind of know what he's talking about.
That's awesome. Yep. Great. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being open about your entrepreneurial journey, some of those challenges. And I do wish you all the best, Bryce.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. I enjoyed this a lot.
Hey, this is Eric. Thank you for listening to my interview with Bryce. Feel free to head out to pavewisepro.com and learn more about Bryce and his company, and feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. Do me a favor. If you like our show, if you've got this far, I'm assuming you do like our show, give us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. The more ratings and reviews we get, the more we can get the podcast seen throughout the interwebs. And I appreciate you listening to Construction Genius here today.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.